Husband hasn't worked in 5 years and doesn't do much for our daughter, so I told him that he is more of a liability than a partner. Sorry for the long post. It's 2 a.m. and I'm crying and tired and worn out. If I'm rambling, it's because I've held this in for so long, not wanting to burden friends or family with my marital troubles. I 34F have been with my husband 37M, we'll call him Nathan, for 8 years. Ever since our daughter 3F was born, I have been unable to trust Nathan with anything, no matter how small. Background context: when I was 19, after a semi-truck driver fell asleep at the wheel and turned my car into scrap metal with me inside it. I have enough metal holding me together that I light up like a Christmas tree for TSA, and physically impaired with good days and bad days. I used a portion of my settlement check to buy a house outright and have it retrofit to accommodate my needs, as I'll eventually require a wheelchair. I work in software development as it's fun, and nobody cares if I work from bed on bad days. My husband has not worked in 5 years, which has been fine until our daughter was born. Between the settlement money, a paid-off house, and my salary, I enjoyed having him here with me. He contributed by handling most of the domestics. We pay for a weekly cleaner with monthly deep cleaning because it gave us more time together. Ever since our daughter was born, it was like a light switch turned off in his head. For our daughter, he would buy the wrong size diapers, not fully mixed bottles, put diapers on backwards, leave out poop-covered wipes, forget to latch cabinets. This past week, he has gone to the store 3 times because he keeps coming home with the wrong size socks and shoes for her. I eventually just ordered the right ones on Amazon. For me, he has tried to help me with my weekly pill organizer fill-up, and several times has spilled the contents of new medications all over the floor. Then, not seeing that he didn't get all of them off the floor, he has repeatedly brought me grapefruit juice to take my medications with a huge no. He has repeatedly forgotten that I can't have dairy and puts milk in my coffee or cheese on a burger. He has broken so many things of mine from being careless. He shattered my laptop because it slipped out of his hand when he tried to pack it for a trip. Even after I said I would pack my own electronics, we've lost so many spoons and forks to the disposal. He tried to replace the head gasket in my car and over-torqued the engine bolt, which shattered and sewed the block, and 2 different shops said they couldn't repair it. We ended up getting a new vehicle because a replacement engine would have cost $11,000. A week later, he crashed the new car into the garage door because he thought he'd pressed the brakes, not accelerator. He wanted to do TikToks and streaming as a hobby. I supported him initially, but I quickly noticed a pattern. Anything regarding our daughter or me, he was sloppy and careless. He never whoopsed his own stuff. He would build entire sets to stream or make videos with, leave the garage, and leave his brain in the garage. It came to a head 4 nights ago. He streamed himself building a new set piece, 9 hours straight. Meanwhile, I worked, clocked out early to pick up our daughter from summer camp, cooked and fed both of us, got her ready for bed. He came out to help put her to bed. I let him know that I needed to get some work done and would be in my office, and I asked him to take the trash out. He says he will. 2 hours later, I left my office and the house felt really warm. He'd taken the trash out, but left our front door partially open, and was back in the garage with his game volume really loud. I panicked since our daughter is able to get out of bed, and thankfully she was sound asleep. But she could have easily toddled right out of the house, and he wouldn't have noticed. Then I noticed a stovetop burner was on, with a small pot on it with nothing inside. I didn't use the stove for cooking that night. I popped my head into the garage and said, "Hey, I need you for a minute." I informed him of the door situation, and he responds, "I thought I locked it." We checked the camera, and no, he did not. I asked about the burner being on, and he said he was planning to make ramen, and forgot. He pulled the still hot pot off the burner, and put it straight into the sink on top of our daughter's favorite plastic plate, which is now ruined. I'll admit, I overreacted and screamed, "What are you doing?" He realized what he'd done and pulls the pot off our daughter's plate and straight onto the countertop. I grab it quickly and run it under water to cool it down. I tell him I can't tonight. I can't deal with him. I'm taking my meds and going to sleep. He gets a cup from the cupboard and sets it straight onto the burner that had been on. I hit my limit. I started crying. He kept saying that it was fine. Things happen. It's just an accident. He's had a rough day from streaming. He's just tired. Why am I crying? It's just a cup. We can replace it. The anger hit, and I said it's because I have a liability and not a partner. He said, "What the FCK does that mean?" I screamed that it's because I can't trust him to do anything, that I'm always having to watch him like a child, always having to bear the costs of his mistakes, that every time I get careless and think I can trust him to be an adult, I'm always the one getting effed over. I then said, "I can't see you as a partner anymore. You're just another liability in my checkbook." He immediately stormed out of the kitchen and went to bed. I called my mom and told her what happened. She thinks it's just stress and offered to take our daughter for a week so we could figure this out without our daughter seeing it. She says it was an asshole thing to call my husband a liability. In the morning, I told my husband that my mom would pick up our daughter from summer camp and offered to watch her for a week. He said okay, and that's the only interaction we've had since. He spends all day in the garage playing games with his friends, making TikToks and streaming. For food, he's been ordering DoorDash and having the person deliver it in the garage. It's been days, and he refuses to be in the same room as me. I've tried messaging him to ask if we can talk or figure out a solution, but he's just left me on red. If I pop into the garage, he ignores me but apologizes to his friends or viewers for the interruption and geek unmute his mic when the noise stops. Before the blow-up, I've asked if there was something going on. I tried to gently respond every time he screwed up so our daughter didn't associate mistake to anger. I asked him to schedule with a doctor to see if something was going wrong medically. He always said I was overreacting, people make mistakes, and didn't see an issue even when the same mistakes kept happening. When I tried to get him to understand that it was concerning just how expensive his mistakes were getting, he'd wave it off as "it's not like we can't afford it." I love him dearly. I just miss the person he was before we had a child, the one I could trust and rely on. Did I screw this up forever? Was I being too harsh on his mistakes? Am I missing something? Am I the a-hole? Update 1. Sorry for not being so responsive. Thank you to everyone who gave feedback and suggestions, and all of the messages. It's been a week. Before I get into the update, going to answer some repeated questions. 1. Why does my husband not work? He can easily find employment, but we both agreed that the pay was never worth the toxic environment of his field, unless he wanted to start his own business, which he did not. He worked in home repair and renovation. It was gross how his coworkers spoke of and treated women, female customers and coworkers alike. He saw many female coworkers be sexually harassed into quitting. He hated how gross it made him feel when sales and adjusters would take advantage of women. Yes, selling inferior and unnecessary services at a premium is a thing. If he said anything, his hours would get cut until he left. He left one job on the first day because his boss left a screaming voicemail for not selling a refrigerant service to a young black couple who didn't even need Yes, he's got documentation and reported multiple employers to the state labor board and checked back. Nothing was ever done to our knowledge. He's also tried a factory job and a warehouse since leaving the trades. Both heavily penalized him for needing scheduled time off for my medical needs. There's no worker protection here for any of that until FMLA unpaid, which takes a year to be eligible for. Yes, it is a privilege to walk away from a paying job with your middle fingers held high. I have done the same many times, but am happy where I'm at right now because it's the opposite of toxic. I'm thriving, and our company has a no penalty, unlimited paid sick medical leave policy that is strictly enforced at all levels of management. Any lead who penalizes people for taking leave gets sacked. A unicorn of a company? Add in a child, and short of finding another unicorn employer who won't penalize him for needing time off for me or our daughter, such as when daycare closed for a week due to an RSV outbreak, puts him out of the workforce until either I stop working or our child old enough to not need consistent monitoring. Last reason for this dynamic is that although I'm disabled, my job pays almost double the highest salary he's ever had. With no reduction in pay for needing time off, it doesn't make financial sense for us to switch who the working partner is. 2. Does my husband have a large following or make money from streaming TikTok? No. His lives have an average of 6 viewers, and his Twitch has 3 followers. When we did our taxes, he didn't get a 1099, and he showed me that head got all of $6 from TikTok live gifts. Nothing from Twitch. His viewer counts are about the same as end of last year. 3. Why do we still have a weekly housekeeper and have our daughter in summer camp and part-time daycare? I hate the dynamic of one spouse working a single job for 40 hours a week, while the other juggles simultaneous domestic duties, child-rearing care, enrichment, socialization, and essentially being on call 24/7. I would not want those expectations of me and couldn't fathom putting all of it on someone I love and cherish. If my husband did all of the activities and field trips that daycare did, his evenings and weekends would be taken up by domestic duties that I would physically struggle with assisting. The weekly housekeeper helps prevent deferred cleaning paralysis, where small missed things pile up into unwieldy monster tasks and struggling with where to start. The monthly deep clean and organization has been a world of self-care as we navigated to having an infant, and the transition from infant to toddler. Edited to add, our daughter started at the part-time daycare when she turned 3. Before then, my partner was the primary caretaker, which made the weekly housekeeping that much more helpful in not letting things fall to disarray. 4. The allowance thing. Yes, I wanted a dynamic where my husband had his own money even if he was not working a paying job. Maybe I've been on social media too long, but I've read so many stories of non-working spouses, albeit mostly women, being financially abused or unable to leave marriages because they did not have access to money they could save up in private. Should I have stopped it sooner when our dynamic became too unbalanced? Yes, I own that. 5. As for what happens if, when we divorce, the house and settlement balance is in a trust completely separated and, as far as my lawyer can tell, out of his reach. Alimony would be up for a judge to decide, but between my documentation, that his license's certs aren't expired, plus my continual medical costs, there's a good chance of not being obligated. Hopefully that answers most or all of the background-related questions. On to the update. Friday, I finished work to the smell of food being cooked. My husband was plating dinner on the table when I left my office. He said he wanted to talk over dinner. Some people had given me a heads up that my story was on multiple TikToks, and I'm grateful because it meant being prepared for the possibility he would see it. Which, I have feelings about my post being used for content on the very platform my child and I have been neglected for. Not good ones. He did see one. He asked if it was me, and I told him the truth. Yes, I wrote it. Yes, that's how I feel. And yes, I read the comments on Reddit. And no, I won't delete or change how I write about him just because I know he can see it. I don't know how to describe his reaction, but he said he'd spent the last day reflecting on just how bad could it be. For so many medical diagnosis suggestions be given as reason and justification. He did say that he's not ADHD. His mom was addicted to opioids and Ritalin. when he was a kid, and she tried to get numerous doctors to have him diagnosed ADHD. She had him believing he was, so he also sought out 2 opinions once he was an adult. He didn't learn about her addiction until his mid-20s. He did seek therapy once he was aware that his mom was trying to use him for pills. He said he was willing to see a psychiatrist one more time, but he doesn't think he's ADHD or autistic at all. He does think he might be depressed though. If not depressed, he will ask about some of the other medical suggestions if it will ease my worry or rule out a major problem. He did sound genuine in this, but something he said is sticking with me. He said it jokingly and apologized as soon as he saw the hurt in my eyes. That everyone's saying there's something wrong in his brain must be onto something, since he chose to love and marry someone medically fragile, knowing our life together would be anything but normal. He did also admit that the night he'd left the door open, the pot on, ruined our child's favorite dish, and a cup. He drank a little too much on his stream and would monitor that more closely. He said the last few nights, he had been filling his wine bottle with grape juice, so it looked like he was a jolly drinking Viking, but was actually sober. He said he would keep doing that. After dinner, we went out, and he surprised me with seeing the new Deadpool movie. We didn't go to our normal theater, because he looked up what each theater had for limited edition popcorn buckets. I now have the baby Deadpool one that holds popcorn and a drink. We spent the next day going over the extent of how our family dynamic changed for the worse, how the little things have added up, how I see change as a part of an apology if you verbally apologize but repeatedly do the same thing. The apology words are worthless to me, and that he didn't recognize just how frequently he was making the same similar oopsies. Sunday, we spent talking over short and long term. What needs to change immediately? Him scheduling his own doctor appointments, timelines for expectations. He agreed that replacing or fixing things he caused will no longer come out of our expense account. He will pay it from his allowance account, which we talked about. I did turn deposits back on, but only for $50 per paycheck. He suggested we keep it that way until he's paid back the cost of repairing the garage and car from earlier this year. He said it will take him far longer to undo the cost of destroying the engine to my last vehicle, but that he's going to step up and find ways to make it right. Just so you know. Yes, I see the red flags. Love bombing. Not knowing how frequently, despite repeated talks, thinking verbal apologies are the final step in apologizing, and not understanding that repeatedly doing the same problem thing is the same as never apologizing. And yes, I know he will read this. Do I actually think this is resolved and we will come out of this as a perfect married couple who stays together until one of us croaks? Not really. Full offense to husband, for now. Is it a potential resolution? Maybe. But my husband is fully aware that he has a lot to make up for, a lot to fix, and a tight schedule to make it happen. And that the lesson for our daughter later in life is either going to be taking real accountability can steer a wayward ship back to course. Taking accountability is the right thing to do, even if you don't get the result you wanted, or love alone isn't enough. Story 2. My sister's boyfriend said I should be a stay-at-home mom, so I told him to mind his business, but he won't leave me alone. So I F20 to have an older sister, F28, she has 4 kids, and she loves being a mom and wants to be a stay-at-home mom, and I encourage her to do whatever she wants. She herself understand that I have no desire to be a mom right now, if not ever. I have 2 other older sisters who are like me who doesn't want to be a stay-at-home mother. This is important in the story. Her boyfriend is mad at me, M27, cause he asked me when I'm going to settle down, and that he can introduce me to his friend, M25, who wants a stay-at-home wife. I told him no, that I don't want to date anyone this year, and he got mad at me for some reason, and asked me why, so I told him my ex-boyfriend left me with trust issues. My ex cheated on me for 6 months into a 3-year relationship. He told me we broke up in 2023 and I should start getting back out there. And I told him it's not his business, and he dropped it. But 2 days ago he asked me if I wanted to be a stay-at-home wife and mother. And I told him no, that I don't, and I'm not even sure if I want kids, let alone to be married. He got defensive since his mom was a stay-at-home wife and mom. And I told him I don't see anything wrong with being a stay-at-home mom, but that I don't personally want to depend on a man for anything. And he once again got defensive and said not all men are the same. I told him he was correct, but again, not all women want the same thing. He said my sister wants to be a stay-at-home wife and mom, and I told him congratulations on finding that with my sister, but that I once again don't want to be a stay-at-home mom. He got mad because he overheard my conversation about me getting an IUD as well, and told me I'm ruining God's plan to make me a mom one day, and I told him whether I want kids or not is not his business. He got mad at me and told me to get out of his home, so I did. My older sister is asking me to apologize to him and to not get an IUD, since if I get pregnant, that it's God's plan. And she also told me I should reconsider being a stay-at-home mom wife. I told her not everyone has that dream, and she accused me of not respecting stay-at-home mothers' wives, which is nothing but lies. My 2 other older sisters are on my side and said my sister's boyfriend shouldn't be too concerned with how I live my life, and that if I don't want to depend on anyone for the rest of my life, that's my choice. He also said I'm going to HELL for being bi, so I screamed that I guess his girlfriend, my sister, is also going to HELL because she's bi herself, which he already knows about. Now their friends are calling me an asshole, saying that he only cares about what I do with my body, since it's God's body, and I should respect it and become a mom soon. So am I the asshole for telling my sister's boyfriend it's not his business if I don't want to be a stay-at-home wife, mom? Edit to clarify, I did put this in some comments, but 3 out of her 4 kids aren't even his. My sister has a 743 and soon to be newborn. Edit 2, I get asked this question a lot, about why I was discussing getting an IUD to my sister's boyfriend. I wasn't discussing it to him. Me and my 3 sisters were all discussing it at his house, but he wasn't there. He walked in though when I said I was thinking of getting a IUD, and that's when he butted into the conversation, and as soon as he said, God's body, not my body, me and my 2 other sisters started talking to him about it, and he raised his voice. So I raised mine, and we eventually left, since I don't like conflict at all. Update 2. Hello everyone, sorry I didn't give an update sooner, I had a lot going on. My 2 other older sisters sat down with our sister, and they all 3 talked about why I wanted nothing to do with her and her boyfriend anymore. She did admit she might have lost herself when she got with her boyfriend, and she wants to apologize to me, but she also wants me to apologize to him as well. My sisters told her I don't owe him an apology or an explanation. She got mad and said she wants nothing to do with me if I can't be the bigger person like she is and apologize. I told her that's fine. My 2 other sisters suggested family therapy, and I told them no. I haven't seen my sister and her boyfriend in a month, and I'm currently living full-time with my aunt, helping her with her medical stuff. I don't exactly have time, nor the energy to even go to family therapy if I wanted to. I did end up in the hospital recently because of a car accident. My best friend was driving at night and most killed a deer. Luckily, we crashed into a tree and only had a broken leg. I can't walk until it's healed. My 2 other sisters found out and lectured us though. None of us was drunk. We just went to IHOP for some breakfast for dinner, and on the way back from IHOP, it's when we got into the car accident. But other than that, nothing really happened with my sister and her boyfriend. I finally cut off contact a month ago for good. It sucks because of my niece and nephews, but I need to protect myself from PPL like them. I decided to make them all a Gmail and email them all every day since. I cut off contact, And when they are all 18, I've decided to give them their email so they can read those emails. I love them, but I need to love myself more. It honestly sounds selfish. But I've gone to my own therapy sessions, and my therapist is helping me cope with losing them. I've fully accepted that I never want to be a mother. It's hard, but I don't think that mother life is for me. My 2 other sisters are upset because they really wanted me to have kids, but they also accepted my choice to not have kids. But like I said, nothing really happened since I cut off contact with my sister and her boyfriend. I did delete my Facebook and Instagram and Messenger accounts, because it wasn't good for my mental health, and my sister could easily get a hold of me that way. But honestly, I'm just living life, and also living one day at a time lately. But that's it. I hope you all good luck in life, and thank you for all the advice. I really appreciate it. Edit. My sister did give birth to another boy. She wanted me at the hospital, but I said no. It was a hard decision, but I think I made the right choice for my mental health. My mental health isn't in a good place, but it's better than it was 2 months ago. Also, I'm thinking about saving money and moving to a small town in a different state and start completely over. Update 3. Hopefully this is the last update. A lot of things had happened since my last update. My father and I was watching Leo and Stitch a week ago when my brother-in-law came over by himself and asked to come in and talk. I said no, but he wouldn't listen and came inside anyways with a bottle of wine. I said no, cause I don't drink, nor do I trust him anymore. He got mad and started yelling at me, cursing me out, and told me I should drink with him just for tonight. I got scared and yelled for my dad. He came in all Hulk-like and told him disrespectfully to get out of my apartment. He still didn't listen, so I called the police, and he got arrested. I asked the cops if I could have a restraining order placed on him, and they said yes, I can. My sister found out about it and got mad at me for getting a restraining order and yelled at me that we are family and family should stick together. I said not if it might cost me my life, then no. I talked to my dad, and we both agreed that I should move out of state. My dad, of course, wants to go with me out of state. So he's getting things settled on his end, and I'm getting things settled on my end. I'm looking into moving to Montana or Tennessee. I've been looking at places and jobs in both states and deciding with my dad about where to go. That's the last update, hopefully. Thank you for everyone who commented and told me I did the right thing and that I'm not the asshole. I appreciated all the advice. There is some stuff I'm leaving out since I found out he has a Reddit account, and don't want him thinking this is about him and starting more drama.